terms of in our own programs, like we conduct large-scale farming programs, in which the current program is we are doing for papaya as a fruit, and then 100-ton per acre sugarcane program. So ultimately, all the technology should enable a farmer to increase his productivity. So that is what we are assuring as part of this particular program, and then handholding for the entire crop cycle. So basically what we do is more of product traceability in the value generation, maximizing the productivity with regular handholding throughout the crop cycle, crop care technical assistance through the Krishi Suchak, so which is digitally scalable, harvest and post-harvest support to support the farmer so that maximum benefits commercially can be realized. Market linkages for profitability, we engage the markets on behalf of the farmer for better prices. So upcoming, we are coming with a turmeric, pomegranate, and raisins. So we go with the crop-specific solutions rather than a crop agnostic. So we are extending the solution to the e-commerce also, so that whatever the recommendations that we are giving is also serviced through our network of distributors that we are engaging with. I'll just quickly browse through it. So usage stats, it's been 2.5 months that we launched this particular program. And before we launched, we were up against a couple of myths, farmer doesn't know the technology, can't use the mobile, and farmer will not pay, and such kind of things. So in spite of that, we wanted to do the pilot, and then we launched it in September 24th. And so currently we have around 4,000 downloads of this particular system, and the system is it's been replicated again on a daily basis. So the impact statistics that we are having till now from all our products, crop information management system, we have 2 business on board, and then we cover around 1.10 lakh acres. Number of farmers covered are 70,000 farmers are covered under this program. In Krishi Suchak, we have active users of 2,600 people, and we have solved more than 9,000 cases that we have received there. So average number of interactions is 3.46 per farmer. Pest and disease queries around 4,000 issues we have resolved. In digital soil card, which is again a high impact program that we are conducting, so 24,710 acres are being covered. Number of samples being tested are 5,000. Digital soil cards that has been distributed is close to around 1 lakh. That's going to be achieved by March.
Thanks.
That's all about the NUPSOL. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks. So we've had a fairly long session. I know there may be some question answers, but I don't think we have the time. We need to close down on time. So what we'll do is, I'm sure the panel members will be available for any conversations after this. Over to you. You can ask questions. We have time. Great. So I've just been given permission. So if anyone has any questions, please, can we have a mic there? Excuse me. We need mics there.
I have 2 questions for Steel Apps. The first one is for your subscription model. What is the time of the ROI? And the second one, who pays for the production? According to the numbers you have shown, you need a lot of capital.
Second question, I'm sorry we didn't get.
Who pays for the product? According to the numbers you have shown, and the rate you are growing, you need a lot of capital.
Yeah.
So the subscription model, typically the ROI is 8 to 12 months. That's our, in the emerging markets, that's what people expect. And in terms of sale, it's a B2B sale, so we sell it through milk processing companies. People who collect milk from the farmers. We don't sell to the farmers directly. We sell to the dairy companies who collect milk from the farmers. So it's a B2B right now.
Great. Anyone else have a question? You had a question, yeah.
My name is Vinay Sasodia, and I have a question regarding growth in startups centered around agriculture. So if you look at startups which witnessed a very rapid growth, a very critical factor was the phenomenon of virality. So my question is, how can you invoke the phenomenon of virality in these kind of startups?
Phenomenon of
Virality?
virality
Yeah.
in these startups.
Yeah.
So let me, do anyone want to take this question?
I would like to take this. So, virality is, I think, in the ag startup world, it's going to be difficult because innovation certainly takes time, and it has to be matching with the on-the-ground traction and other things. And this particular segment, the customer is not like an urban kind of a segment, wherein which quickly they will adopt and other things. So, and we are talking about agriculture, where seasons roll and number of years roll very quickly. And unless and until a farmer sees something on the ground which is working, adoption is going to be very less. So virality as such, from my side, I don't see any kind of a virality that's unless and until like a WhatsApp kind of a thing, something picks up.
Just one. Yeah, so let me also try and add to that, since we work very closely with agriculture and sell tractors for a living. Clearly in agriculture, and like Dr. Moalim also said, there's no hockey stick valuation game here. For many people who end up in this space thinking that there's going to be a huge valuation upside to startups, it doesn't happen that quickly, because it takes you a minimum 2 to 3 cycles of, I think, years of productivity before anyone thinks of this product as a successful product that's worth looking at. And so it's not that easy. And I don't think any farmer also will risk a new product or service unless he's, because all the other IT pieces may not directly impact my survivability, but in this, a farmer's, I think, survival depends on, if it ends up depending on advice he gets through an app that goes wrong, the next year is going to be difficult to survive. So, am I right?
Yes, I think it's definitely a problem in the issue when farmers are afraid to make decisions different from what they've done before. So to get them to change their what they're doing, even if it's good technology, is a process. Okay, that's on the farmer level. On the IT level, I think, look, India has wonderful IT, and I think that there is a synergic activity here. So the more digitation you have, the more you're going to see the results. So it's a process, but there will be an upside. It won't be viral, though.
Yeah. The only virality you will see right now is in the number of startups chasing the same idea.
Good evening, panelists. I'm
Yes.
Usha from IIM Kozhikode. I have a question for Siddharth, sir. So you happen to mention that your app runs an algorithm which tells the farmer what is the return on investment if he grows so-and-so crop. So I wanted to know what is the probability that the outcome that the app gives is correct. Why? Because your analysis must be based on some previous historic data collected over the years. But does it even consider the unforeseen changes that might arrive in the weather in the coming year?
Yeah, very good question. So yes, to answer you, yes, there is a 20% probability of going wrong there. So we give this as a value add. We do not charge anything to the farmer. At this juncture, the idea is to build the data science capabilities to be able to as perfectly predict what could be possibly happening. So yes, the weather is very sporadic. It changes very. It could change. The idea is that looking at historical trend, looking at satellite image, looking at weather stations. So clubbing all of that into one and then try to give an information which is correct. But yes, there is a challenge there.
Okay, great, thanks. So we will not take any more questions. Just to conclude, there are two parts to the title of the topic that we talked about today. One is innovation, the other is entrepreneurship. What we need to be sure, and especially in India, is that we end up doing a lot more innovation and a little less entrepreneurship, because there are too many Me Toos in the system, and that will effectively destroy all startups that are trying to play a game. I think there is a, how do you do things differently, how do you do things better needs to be the challenge, rather than saying, let me do this as well. because one of the big things that you need in agricultural innovation is actually scale. And to get to scale is really going to be the biggest challenge for most startups and most companies. And I think again, the presentation that Mr. Molle made was very interesting, that large organizations that have scale don't have the ability to specialize. Organizations that have the ability to burn all bridges and chase an idea don't have the ability to scale. And clearly it is an opportunity of interesting partnerships and to grow and to expand. And that's going to be really the great, I think the great idea of going forward. How do we create more bridges between those that have scale and those that have great ideas? And therefore be able to make this change, because clearly, like we talked, virality is not going to be an option here. Great, thank you very much. Over to you.
Okay. So thank you, respected speakers. And ladies and gentlemen, please give them a big round of applause. Okay, so we had a great series of sessions today enlightening us about advanced technologies reshaping Indian agriculture. And now it's time to wrap up this conference. And for the same, I would like to invite on stage once again Mr. Rohtashmal, Chairman and Managing Director, EM3 Agri Services Private Limited, India. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Mr. Rohtashmal.
Yes, I need the energy. Okay, I promise you for the final time for the next 365 days, for the next 1 year. But before that, before I get going, I would like you to put your hands together for the CII team for putting this together. I don't know, I can't see Meetu here, but what a job. And a hand for yourselves as well. It's almost 8 hours of intense intellectual horsepower at work. I'm going to... Meetu, you missed the Padma Shri. So I'll repeat it for you. Meetu's right there, a hand for her and her team. Very well done indeed. Before I try and put this jigsaw together, and this is the picture in my head at the moment, we've gone through 8 hours of intense absorption. Obviously, all the pieces of the jigsaw are not there. We'll have to imagine the rest. But my purpose of stepping up here would be to summarize to an extent and maybe distill to another extent what we've experienced today, so that we can all go back somewhat more thoughtful than when we came in the morning. So we started off with talking about the heart, the head, and the guts to carry on this transformation. Rajesh spoke earlier about yield improvements, and the thought that I had at that time was yield is usually measured in quintals per acre, but I think it's time we started measuring it in net rupees per acre for the farmer. Danny stepped up in terms of integrating academia with industry and finance, something that was Kopia also mentioned at the very end. I think it's probably a piece in the entire jigsaw that needs to come together to make transformation happen. We then moved on to talking about data accessibility, sharp problem definition, artificial intelligence, another very interesting piece. And then Sanjay brought in the entire world of social impact organizations that don't necessarily have the pressures of making profitable commerce happen, but are definitely required to make sure that the ecosystem is carried to a point where profitability begins to happen. And that's where social impact money, philanthropy money start playing a big role, and which is the area where philanthropy is getting more and more interested. He talked about creating the communities which could sit together and work on these, and that was a great thing. We then stepped on to getting deep inside technology. We talked IoT, we talked satellites, we talked microsensors, and also talked about technologies which monetize the entire effort. And I think that's a big piece, because until seed becomes cash, for the farmer. We haven't quite done our jobs. I am reminded yet once again of the fact that we spoke about technology adoption challenges, especially misplaced as it might be, given the level of education and technology adoption on the part of the farmer. I definitely recall talking about pillars and beams. How do you string this entire theme so that these pillars are not waving in the wind, each individual technology or effort pillar, but it's strung together at various levels, and that makes a strong business model. We had a great learning out of how to get sunlight to work and get it impacted on precision agriculture. And indeed talked about how to get autonomy in our particular context, given our somewhat, let's say, fractured power systems, getting autonomy for IoT devices. It was interesting to talk about taking tech to market. And we talked about the management of variability and as an example. And given the number of known unknowns and indeed unknown unknowns in the agriculture sector, any sharp intelligence that comes to the entrepreneur, i.e. the farmer, either directly or through intermediaries, would be very, very, very welcome indeed. And bringing technology to bear on this was crucial. We heard TCS. Now, that struck me. We heard TCS talking about applying technology across the entire chain. Now, somebody like TCS, Microsoft, Google, I mean, look at the kind of interest that the world of digitization, that the software world is applying to this sector. Very quietly, this revolution has been happening for the last 4, 5, 6 years, very, very quietly, but you saw a manifestation of that today. And we also talked about getting to the complexities of these inputs to the farmer. We then stepped out to another piece of the jigsaw puzzle, which is about skilling. Who's going to do it anyway? I mean, all these technologies are very fine, and to me, that's one of the biggest pieces of effort that's required to be made. I personally predict that there are a few NIITs in the making in the area of capability, in the area of capability creation, communication, comprehension. You might call it the 3 C's. We then talked about agri-mechanization and its perspectives. Strangely, the OEs would have to come together to create a bank of operators who could actually create those machines. And there's a great case for CII, FACE, CII Agri Council, indeed all the OEs to get together to make sure that that happens. Jacob once again provoked us into thinking about the debate of the big established large organizations and the fleet of foot, smaller organizations. Coming from that world till very recently, I spent 36 years in that world. I can almost palpably feel that. Let's remember that as organizations get beyond a certain size, they get protective in character. The DNA shifts from aggression to protection. There's a lot to protect. Market shares, PBTs, market prices. There's a lot to protect. Ego, face, something that the small guy doesn't have. On the other hand, the small guy doesn't have the wherewithal. So Viren made the very, very important, in fact, I empathize with that. Or not only empathize, I resonate with that. The very strong case of opening up the boundaries of organizations to look at partnerships, how we can solve the problems together. Interestingly, the 3 startups that presented to us talked a great deal, and they were extremely customer focused. They talked a great deal of the farmer. And what was the benefit that we were going to be delivering to the farmer? Something that as organizations grow a little older and much older, they forget. So customer focus actually goes out of focus to that extent. So as I said, a lot of jigsaw pieces coming together, and a few pieces still missing. Obviously, an 8-hour event like that can't do it at one go. But I wish a few more of these events happen from CII and from others. So just to round it off, a few, shall we say, distillations from my head. And that is, A, we got to stop thinking technology first. From my point of view, we got to think farmer first and monetization first. The monetization of the effort through technology. Technology is an enabler of any kind, whether it's a machine or a software or an app or whatever. If we lose sight of that, then we'll actually be contributing to the already huge surfeit of technologies that are available and a huge deficit of application that surrounds us. We should be thinking application. Application means turning it into benefit and cash. Second, I think a lot of people need to start thinking, rather opening out their arms and start embracing competitors. We are in the era of cooperation, not competition. And if we have to survive, make any dramatic changes in the sector, then collaboration is the key. How to do that while protecting personal interests as well is the subject of cooperation. I urge that we think about doing that. Once again, I want to repeat that the digital world, whether it's TCS, whether it's the huge delegation from Israel, is testimony to the fact, and thank you for being here in such large numbers, is testimony to the fact that the digital world, the tech world, is watching this India agri opportunity in a huge way. And I think we need to step up to in a sense, take quicker adoption routes, faster decisions, to be able to further ignite interest in Indian agriculture, which we all know statistics, but we know it's a huge, huge opportunity. So the bad news is that there are huge number of silver bullets that are available, right? But the good news is that, the bad news is there's no one silver bullet. The good news is there's a huge number of silver bullets available, and I guess it's up to us, the 300, 200 thinkers in this room and far beyond, to come together and create that ecosystem in cooperation that will make this change happen. Thank you, and you've been an amazing audience through the day. Round of applause for you. I guess I'll announce that it's over.
Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us over this matter and being a part of this wonderful conference. It's now time to say goodbye, and this is your host, Kritika Sharma, now signing off.